Mother had 6 hours to live when the stranger appeared in the hospital room with eyes that shouldn't exist. One burning gold, the other blood red. He offered a deal Luna couldn't refuse. 10 years of servitude in exchange for her mother's life. She took it without hesitation, letting him burn a mark into her skin that bound her soul to his. But Luna didn't know 3 things that night. First, that the beautiful monster who saved her mother was the same one who'd orchestrated her sister's death 2 years ago. Second, that her blood carried an ancient power heaven wanted extinct, making her a target for celestial executioners who wouldn't stop until she was erased from existence. And third, that serving a creature torn between angel and demon would force her to choose between the revenge she deserved and a love so impossible it could destroy them both. Because Azrael wasn't just any Nephilim. He was an abomination hunting his own redemption, and Luna was either his salvation or the final sin that would condemn him forever. Now, with assassins closing in and a bond forming that death alone could break, Luna had to answer one question that would determine if either of them survived. Can you forgive the person who murdered your sister when loving him is the only thing keeping you both alive? The mark on her wrist pulsed with warning. Dawn was coming, and with it, hunters who'd already decided their answer was no. The fluorescent lights in the ICU hummed their mechanical lullaby, but Luna hadn't heard them in hours. All she could hear was the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor slowing down. Slowing. Her mother's hand felt like paper in hers, translucent skin stretched over bones that shouldn't be visible yet. The cancer had eaten through her so fast. 3 months from diagnosis to this, the doctor said. A death sentence wrapped in medical terminology and apologetic eyes. Luna pressed her forehead against her mother's knuckles, tasting salt. She'd cried. So much over the past 72 hours that her tear ducts should have been empty, but grief apparently had infinite reserves. The nurses had stopped checking on them every 15 minutes. They knew. Everyone knew. This was the waiting room before goodbye. I'm sorry, Luna whispered into the antiseptic air. I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have caught it earlier. I'm a nurse, for God's sake. I should have seen the signs. Her mother didn't respond. Hadn't responded in 2 days. The morphine drip kept her somewhere between sleep and the other side, a mercy Luna was grateful for even as it stole their last chance to talk. There were so many things left unsaid. So many apologies Luna needed to make. Like the accident. Like Sophia. Her little sister's face flashed behind Luna's eyelids, frozen at 23 forever. That night 2 years ago, when the rain came down in sheets and Luna's hands shook on the wheel because she'd worked a double shift, and her eyes kept closing, and she didn't see the truck until it was too late. The impact. The screaming metal. Sophia's last breath rattling in her chest while Luna held her, screaming for help that came 5 minutes too late. The guilt never stopped. It lived in Luna's throat, a permanent lump she swallowed around every single day. Her mother never blamed her out loud. That somehow made it worse. I can save her. Luna's head snapped up so fast her neck cracked. The voice came from the corner of the room, where shadows pooled thicker than they should. A man stepped forward, and the fluorescent lights flickered as if offended by his presence. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair that looked black until the light hit it wrong and revealed deep burgundy undertones. But it was his eyes that made Luna's breath catch and stick in her lungs. One eye burned gold, pure and luminous like melted sunlight. The other glowed deep crimson, the color of fresh blood. They shouldn't have worked together on a human face. They shouldn't have been beautiful, but they were. Who the hell are you? Luna stood, putting herself between this stranger and her mother's bed. Her heart hammered against her ribs, adrenaline flooding her system. She'd dealt with plenty of drugged-up visitors in the ER, but this man didn't move like he was high. He moved like a predator, controlled, deliberate, every step measured. Someone who can help. His voice was wrong too, layered somehow, as if two people spoke in perfect unison. One voice, warm honey, the other cold ash. Your mother has hours left. Maybe 6. The cancer has metastasized to her liver, lungs, and brain. Modern medicine has done everything it can. Get out. Luna's voice shook. Get out before I call security. You won't. He tilted his head, studying her with those impossible eyes. The gold one seemed to soften with something like compassion. The red one remained flat, emotionless. Because you know I'm telling the truth. You've known for days that she's dying and you're desperate enough to listen to a stranger who appears in the middle of the night claiming he can save her. Luna's hand found the nurse call button, but she didn't press it. Her fingers trembled against the plastic. He was right. God help her. He was right. Desperation had teeth, and they were sinking deep into her chest. How? The word came out broken. The man moved closer. The temperature in the room shifted, one side of him radiating warmth that felt like standing near a bonfire. The other, side-bleeding cold that raised goosebumps on Luna's arms. I can heal her, completely. The cancer will be gone within an hour. She'll wake up tomorrow morning asking for breakfast. That's impossible. Is it? He stopped 3 feet away. This close, Luna could see that his skin had an odd quality too, as if light and shadow competed for dominance across his features. Pale on the left side, faintly darker on the right, with a network of veins that seemed to glow silver beneath the surface, before darkening to deep purple. You see things, don't you, Luna? Shadows that move wrong. Darkness at the edges of your vision that disappears when you look directly at it. You've seen them your whole life, but you convinced yourself it was stress, trauma, anything but the truth. Luna's throat closed. She'd never told anyone about the shadows. Not even the therapist after Sophia died, who'd prescribed sleeping pills Luna never took because she was terrified of what she'd see if she closed her eyes for too long. What are you? She whispered. Someone who makes deals. He extended his right hand. The veins in his forearm pulsed with crimson light, then silver, then crimson again, as if 2 different types of blood fought for dominance. 10 years of service in exchange for your mother's life. You work for me, help me with certain tasks, and she lives. Refuse, and she dies before sunrise. Service doing what? Helping me locate people who owe debts. Your particular gift will be useful for that. His gold eye caught the fluorescent light and seemed to glow brighter. I won't hurt you. I won't force you to hurt others. You have my word. The word of a stranger who just appeared in my mother's hospital room like a demon. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe, or anger. There and gone so fast Luna couldn't be sure. Not a demon. Something else. Something in between. My name is Azrael. Behind them, the heart monitor's beeping slowed further. Luna glanced. Back at her mother's pale face, at the way her chest barely rose with each shallow breath. 6 hours, he'd said. Maybe less. 10 years of her life for her mother's survival. 10 years serving a man with impossible eyes, who knew things he shouldn't know. 10 years bound to something that definitely wasn't human. Or 6 hours watching her mother die, knowing Luna had a choice and was too afraid to take it. What happens if I say yes? Luna asked, not looking at him, staring at her mother's hand in hers. I'll mark you, create a bond between us. You'll feel when I'm near, and I'll know when you're in danger. The connection will last the full 10 years unless death breaks it first. Will it hurt? Yes. At least he was honest. But pain fades. Regret doesn't. Luna's free hand pressed against her chest, where grief sat like a stone. She'd lived with regret for 2 years, ever since the night she killed Sophia. She knew exactly how permanent that wound was, how it never stopped bleeding, no matter how much time passed. She couldn't survive losing her mother, too. She couldn't carry that much guilt and remain human. Save her, Luna said, turning to face Azrael. I accept. His expression didn't change, but both eyes flared brighter, the gold one almost blinding, the red one like staring into a furnace. You understand the terms? 10 years. No backing out. No negotiation. I understand. Then give me your wrist. Luna extended her right arm. Her hand shook. Azrael's fingers closed. Around her wrist, and the temperature difference between his hands was shocking. One burning hot, the other freezing cold. His thumb pressed against her pulse point. This will hurt, he warned again. The pain hit like lightning through her veins. Luna gasped, tried to jerk away, but his grip was iron. Heat and cold battled under her skin, scorching and freezing simultaneously. She felt something searing into her flesh, burning so deep it touched bone. The scream built in her throat but came out as a strangled whimper because she didn't want to alert the nurses, didn't want anyone to stop this before it was done. When Azrael finally released her, Luna staggered back. She looked down at her wrist and felt her stomach drop. Burned into her skin in silver and black ink was a mark that looked like wings, but they were broken, shattered at the apex and falling in opposite directions. One wing glowed faint silver. The other shimmered dark red. It's done, Azrael said quietly. He moved to her. Mother's bedside, placing one hand on her forehead. His palm glowed with silver-white light so bright Luna had to look away. The heart monitor's beeping stuttered, stopped, then resumed stronger, steadier. Her mother's breathing deepened. Luna watched through tears as color returned to her mother's face, as the gauntness faded, as the death rattle in her chest smoothed into regular breathing. She'll sleep through the night, Azrael said, stepping back. The glow faded from his hand. Tomorrow, she'll wake up cancer-free. The doctors will call it a miracle. Let them. Thank you. Luna's voice broke. Thank you. Azrael looked at her for a long moment. The gold eye held something almost like regret. The red one remained empty. Don't thank me yet. You have no idea what you've just agreed to. He turned toward the shadows in the corner, and Luna suddenly realized she couldn't let him just leave, not when she had so many questions. Wait. When do I start? How do I find you? You don't. Find me. Azrael glanced back, and in the dim light, Luna saw his face shift, saw the way darkness and light literally warred across his features, as if he was two different people occupying the same space. I'll find you. Soon. Enjoy this moment, Luna. Enjoy your mother being alive, because once you step into my world, nothing will ever be the same. He walked into the shadows and simply disappeared. Not like he left through the door. He dissolved into the darkness as if he'd never been solid. At all. Luna stood frozen, her wrist burning with the brand, her mother breathing steadily behind her. She'd just made a deal with something that wasn't human. She'd just sold 10 years of her life. And as she looked down at the broken wings marking her skin, at the way they glowed faintly in the dark, she wondered if she'd just saved her mother's life or destroyed her own. 3 days passed before Azrael came for her. 3 days of watching her mother sit up in bed, laugh at nurses' jokes, demand real food instead of the hospital's flavorless soup. 3 days of doctors running tests and finding nothing, absolutely nothing, where terminal cancer had been eating her alive just 72 hours earlier. They called it spontaneous remission, a medical miracle. Luna's mother called it God's grace. Luna called it the price she'd pay for the next 10 years. She'd tried to convince herself that night had been a hallucination. Exhaustion-induced psychosis. Some kind of breakdown. Triggered by grief and desperation. But every time she looked at her wrist, she saw the mark. Silver and black wings, broken and falling. The skin around it didn't hurt anymore, but sometimes it tingled, a strange warmth that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. And she saw the shadows differently now. They moved with intention, watched her with invisible eyes. The hospital felt crowded with things that shouldn't exist, presences that made her skin crawl even though she couldn't see them. Directly, Luna was restocking supplies in the ICU medication room when the temperature dropped 15 degrees in 2 seconds. Her breath misted in front of her face. The fluorescent lights flickered once, twice, then steadied into a dimmer glow that made everything look like it was underwater. "Hello, Luna." She spun around, nearly dropping the box of syringes. Azrael stood between her and the door, looking exactly as he had 3 nights ago, except somehow more real, more solid, as if that first meeting had been a faded photograph and this was high definition. His mismatched eyes glowed in the artificial twilight of the medication room, gold and red, beautiful and terrifying. "You can't be here," Luna hissed, glancing toward the door. "This is a restricted area. How did you even get past security?" "I walked." He tilted his head, studying her. "They didn't see me. Most people don't unless I want them to." He paused, and something flickered across his face, that same war between expressions she'd noticed before. "You look tired." "I haven't been sleeping well." Luna set the box down carefully, trying to keep her hands from shaking. "Turns out selling your soul makes for interesting nightmares." "I didn't take your soul, just your time." Azrael moved closer, and Luna noticed details she'd missed before. The way his hair seemed to shift between black and deep red depending on the angle. The faint scars on his left hand that glowed silver, contrasting with dark purple. Veins on his right. He wore all black, jeans and a t-shirt that somehow looked both casual and threatening. "Your mother's recovery is progressing well. Don't." Luna's voice came out sharper than intended. "Don't pretend you care about her. You used her to get what you wanted." For a moment, his gold eye softened with something that looked almost like hurt. Then the red one flared brighter, and his expression flattened into neutrality. "I gave you a choice. You made it. Second-guessing the deal now won't change the terms." "I'm not second-guessing. I just want to understand what I've gotten myself into." "You've gotten yourself into my world." Azrael gestured toward the door. "Come with me. Your shift ends in 20 minutes. Call in sick for tomorrow. Tell them your mother needs you. I can't just leave. I have patients. You have responsibilities to me now, too." His voice hardened, both layers speaking in unison, warm and cold at once. "The mark binds you, Luna. When I call, you answer. That's how this works." The brand on her wrist suddenly burned, a sharp heat that made her gasp and grab her arm. Azrael's eyes tracked the movement, and something like regret crossed his face again before vanishing. "I can make it stop hurting," he said quietly. "Come with me willingly, and the bond settles. Fight it, and it'll feel like fire under your skin until you comply." Luna wanted to tell him to go to hell, wanted to rip the mark off her wrist even though she knew that was impossible. But the burning intensified, spreading up her arm toward her shoulder, and she realized he wasn't bluffing. This was the reality of the deal she'd made. When he called, she came, or she suffered. Fine. She stripped off her latex gloves and tossed them in the biohazard bin with more force than necessary. "Where are we going?" "To collect a debt." 23 minutes later, Luna sat in the passenger seat of Azrael's car. A black sedan that looked normal from the outside but felt wrong inside. The air was too cold, the shadows in the back seat too deep, and the music playing from the speakers was in a language Luna didn't recognize, haunting and beautiful, and sad enough to make her chest ache. They drove through the city as sunset painted the sky orange and purple, heading toward the industrial district where warehouses crouched like sleeping giants. Azrael didn't speak, both hands on the wheel, his expression unreadable. Luna watched his profile, trying to understand what he was. Not human, obviously, but not entirely inhuman either. There was something tragically broken about him, visible in the literal split down the center of his features, the way light and shadow couldn't decide which side of him to claim. "What are you?" she asked finally, unable to stand the silence. "Nephilim." The word came out like a curse. Half angel, half demon, an abomination to both sides. Something that shouldn't exist but does anyway. Your parents, dead. His jaw tightened, veins in his neck pulsing with alternating silver and dark red light. Executed for the crime of creating me. Angels don't forgive their own for falling. Demons don't tolerate weakness in their ranks. Love between the two? Unforgivable. Luna absorbed that, her chest tightening with unexpected sympathy. I'm sorry. Don't be. I never knew them. Azrael pulled into an abandoned warehouse parking lot, killing the engine. They died when I was 3 days old. I grew up alone, raised by neither side, belonging to nothing. You learn to survive when you're unwanted by everyone. He climbed out of the car before Luna could respond. She followed, her shoes crunching on gravel, the mark on her wrist tingling with warning. The warehouse ahead looked condemned, windows broken, walls covered in graffiti. But Luna felt something else emanating from it. A presence. Multiple presences. Things that watched and waited. What exactly am I supposed to do here? Luna asked as Azrael led her toward a rusted side door. There's a man inside who owes me 5 years of his life. He made a deal, took what he wanted, and now refuses to pay. You're going to help me find him. How? I'm a nurse, not a bounty hunter. Azrael stopped, turning to face her. In the dying light, his eyes blazed like twin flames. You see things, Luna. Truths. Shadows that others miss. When you look at someone, really look, you can see what they're hiding. That's your gift, your curse. The blood in your veins carries the ability to perceive what's real beneath the lies. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. He stepped closer, close enough that Luna could feel the temperature war radiating from him. Heat on her left side, cold on her right. You knew your sister was going to die that night. You saw the shadow on her before the accident happened. That's why you were so tired, why your hands shook on the wheel. You'd been seeing death following her for weeks, and it was eating you. Alive. Luna's breath caught. The memory slammed into her. Sophia laughing in the passenger seat, and behind her, impossible to ignore, a darkness that clung to her shoulders like oil. Luna had seen it for 3 weeks before the crash, had convinced herself it was stress, exhaustion, anything but the truth screaming at her from the edges of her vision. How do you know that? Her voice came out strangled. Because I can see what you are. Descendant of celestial judges, humans the angels created. Millennia ago, to perceive truth and pass judgment on souls. Your bloodline was supposed to be extinct. But here you are, walking around with eyes that see too much, and a heart that bleeds from the weight of knowledge you never asked for. Tears burned in Luna's eyes. I couldn't save her. I saw death coming, and I couldn't stop it. You weren't supposed to stop it. You were supposed to witness it. That's what your kind does. You see? You know. You carry the truth even when it destroys you. Azrael's gold eye held genuine compassion now, while the red one remained cold. I'm not asking you to save anyone tonight, Luna. Just help me find a man who's hiding from consequences. Use those eyes that see too much. Tell me where he is. Luna wiped her face roughly. And if I can't, then we keep looking until you can. The bond between us will help. You'll feel him the same way you feel me now. Azrael reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement, and touched her marked wrist with one finger. The brand flared warm, then settled into a steady pulse. Close your eyes. Reach through the connection. Tell me what you sense. Luna wanted to refuse, but the mark encouraged her, pulling her attention inward. She closed her eyes and immediately felt Azrael like a bonfire beside her, bright and dark at once, burning with contradictions. But beyond him, deeper in the warehouse, she sensed something else. A flutter of fear, desperation, and underneath it all, rot, decay, the stench of someone who'd used borrowed time for terrible things. "Third floor," Luna whispered, eyes still closed. "Northeast corner. He's hiding behind something that smells like rust and regret. And he knows you're here." When she opened her eyes, Azrael was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Both of his eyes glowed brighter, and for just a moment he looked almost vulnerable, almost human. "You're stronger than you know," he said quietly. "That's going to make this either much easier or much more complicated." He turned toward the warehouse entrance, and Luna followed, her heart hammering. The mark on her wrist pulsed in rhythm with Azrael's footsteps, pulling her forward into a world she'd spent her whole life pretending didn't exist. As they stepped through the broken door into darkness that moved with intention, Luna realized the truth. 3 days ago, she'd sold 10 years for her mother's life. But what she'd really done was open her eyes to everything she'd been, desperately trying not to see. And there was no going back now. The shadows knew her name, and they were hungry. The warehouse swallowed them whole. Luna's footsteps echoed against concrete floors littered with debris, each sound bouncing off rusted metal and broken glass. The darkness here wasn't natural. It pressed against her skin like something alive, something curious. She could feel it tasting her, testing the mark on her wrist, trying to understand what she was. Azrael moved ahead of her. With predatory grace, silent despite his size. The air around him shimmered with heat on one side, frost on the other, creating visible distortions in the dim light filtering through shattered windows. Luna watched the way shadows bent toward him, then recoiled, as if even darkness couldn't decide whether to embrace or flee from him. "Stay close," he said without looking back. His voice echoed strangely, layered with harmonics that made Luna's teeth ache. "There are things here besides our target, things that would love to taste someone with your bloodline." "Comforting," Luna muttered, but she closed the distance between them. The mark on her wrist pulsed warmer, responding to proximity. She could feel Azrael through it now, a constant presence in the back of her mind. His emotions bled through the connection in fragments. Determination, cold focus, and underneath it all, a bone-deep weariness that made her chest ache with unexpected sympathy. They climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, each step creaking ominously. Luna's gift pulled her forward, that cursed ability to see truth she'd spent 28 years trying to ignore. Now she let it guide her, feeling for the rot she'd sensed earlier. The sensation grew stronger with each floor they ascended, thick and cloying, like standing next to something that had been dead for days but refused to stop moving. The 3rd floor opened into a vast space filled with abandoned machinery, conveyor belts frozen mid-movement, rusted equipment that might have once assembled something but now just gathered dust and shadows. Luna's eyes adjusted to the darkness, and she saw movement in the northeast corner, exactly where she'd known it would be. A man huddled behind an overturned table, his silhouette visible against the broken window behind him. But when Luna really looked at him, using the sight that had haunted her since childhood, she saw the truth beneath his skin. Gray veins spreading like infection. Eyes that reflected light wrong, catching it with an oily sheen. And around him, clinging to his shoulders like a cloak, darkness that writhed and pulsed with borrowed life. "Marcus Chen," Azrael called out, his voice filling the space with authority. 5 years ago, you came to me begging for time. Your daughter was dying of leukemia, and you'd exhausted every option. I gave you 5 years of borrowed life to save her. The deal was clear. When I came to collect, you'd give me those 5 years of service. The man stood slowly, hands raised. He looked maybe 40, but Luna's sight showed her the truth. He was closer to 60, the borrowed years keeping him artificially young while rot spread beneath. "My daughter's cancer came back," Marcus said, his voice shaking. 6 months ago. She's 17 now, and it's killing her again. I need more time. That wasn't our agreement. Please." Marcus took a step forward, and Luna saw tears streaming down his face. Real tears. Real desperation. "I'll do anything. Give you 10 years instead of 5. 15. Just save her again. She's all I have left after her mother died." Luna's heart twisted. This wasn't what she'd expected. She'd imagined some criminal. Someone who deserved consequences. Not a father trying to save his child. Not someone making the exact same choice she'd made 3 days ago. But Azriel's expression didn't change. Both eyes glowed brighter, gold and red, merciless. "I saved her once. I gave you 5 years to prepare, to say goodbye, to make peace with what was coming. You chose to run instead, to hide, to pretend the debt would disappear if you avoided me long enough. Because I knew you'd say no." Marcus's voice cracked. "I knew you'd take me and leave her alone to die. What kind of father lets that happen? What kind of father chooses himself over his child?" The words hit Luna like a physical blow. She thought of her mother, of the deal she'd made, of how she'd given 10 years without hesitation. Because the alternative was unthinkable. She looked at Azriel, at the cold neutrality in his face, and something hot and angry unfurled in her chest. "Can't you help him again?" she asked quietly. Azriel's head turned toward her slowly. The gold eye held warning. The red one flared with something dangerous. "Stay out of this, Luna. You don't understand how this works. Then explain it to me. Because right now, I'm watching you refuse to save a 17-year-old girl from cancer when you have the power to do it. How is that different from what happened to my mother? Your mother's debt is being paid. His isn't." Azriel's jaw tightened, veins in his neck pulsing with competing light. "Every healing has a cost, Luna. Every life saved requires balance. I can't just give endlessly without taking. That's not how this works. That's not how I work. So you're saying you won't help her?" Luna's voice dropped. "You're saying she dies because her father's debt comes first. I'm saying there are rules. Laws that govern what I am and what I can do. If I break them, there are consequences. Consequences worse than one girl dying of cancer." Marcus made a sound somewhere between a sob and a laugh. "You hear that, Luna? That's what I've been living with for 5 years. Knowing I made a deal with something that talks about my daughter dying like it's a math equation. Like her life is just another transaction." Azriel moved so fast, Luna barely saw it. One moment he stood beside her. The next he had Marcus pressed against the wall, one hand around his throat. Not squeezing, just holding. But the threat was clear. The temperature around them plummeted, frost spreading across the concrete floor in crystalline patterns. "You want to know what I am, Marcus?" Azriel's voice dropped to something barely human, both layers speaking in perfect, terrible unison. "I'm what happens when heaven and hell create something neither can control. I'm the thing angels hunt because my existence is blasphemy. I'm the creature demons try to enslave because my power is useful. I don't belong anywhere, to anyone, except the contracts I make. Those contracts are the only thing that gives my existence meaning. So yes, your daughter is a math equation, because if I start breaking my own rules, I become exactly what they all say I am, an abomination with no purpose except destruction." Luna saw it then, bleeding through the bond between them, the truth Azriel carried like a wound that never healed. He wasn't cruel. He was desperate, clinging to contracts and debts because without them, he was nothing. Just another mistake neither side wanted, existing in the space between redemption and damnation with no hope of either. The gold eye, she realized, was the angel part trying to feel compassion. The red eye was the demon part that had learned to shut it down for survival. And the war between them was tearing him apart from the inside, visible in every shift of his features, every flicker of competing light beneath his skin. "Let him go," Luna said softly. Azriel's head snapped toward her. "What?" "Let him go, please." She took a step closer, close enough to feel the frost spreading from him. "I'll take his debt." Add it to mine. 15 years instead of 10. Just save his daughter. Luna, no. Marcus started. Absolutely not. Azriel released Marcus, turning to face Luna fully. Both eyes blazed with emotion now, gold bright with something like fear, red dark with anger. You have no idea what you're offering. 15 years bound to me. The things I'll ask you to see. The debts I'll make you help collect. 5 more years of watching people suffer and being unable to help them. Better than watching a 17-year-old girl die when I could have prevented it. Luna met his gaze steadily, even though her heart hammered so hard she felt it in her throat. You said I see truth. Well, here's a truth. That girl is dying, and you have the power to stop it. And the only thing holding you back is pride and fear. Fear that if you show mercy once, you'll have to show it again. Fear that compassion makes you weak. But you know what I think? I think you're already merciful. I think the angel part of you is screaming to save her, and the demon part is the one that learned to say no for survival. So let the angel win this time. Please. For a long moment, Azriel just stared at her. The warehouse fell silent, except for Marcus's ragged breathing and the distant sound of traffic outside. Luna watched emotions war across Azriel's face, visible in the way his features literally shifted, light brightening on the left, while shadow deepened on the right. Then his gold eye flickered, brightened, and something in his expression cracked open. You're going to destroy me, he said quietly, and it wasn't clear which part of him was speaking. You're going to make me remember what it feels like to hope, and it's going to tear me apart. Is that a yes? Azriel closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, the gold one glowed so bright it hurt to look at directly. 15 years. Your debt absorbs his, but the terms remain the same. You serve until the time is paid or death breaks the bond. And Luna, this compassion you're showing, it's going to cost you more than you know. Because once people realize you have my ear, they'll come begging, and you'll want to save them all. And you can't. You understand that? I understand. No. Azriel reached out, touching her marked wrist. The brand burned cold, hot, cold, expanding to wrap around her entire forearm in intricate patterns of broken wings and shattered halos. You really don't. But you will. He turned to Marcus. Take me to your daughter, now, and pray she survives the healing, because if she doesn't, Luna pays your debt and carries the weight of watching her die anyway. As they left the warehouse, Luna looked down at the expanded mark covering her arm. 15 years. 15 years of serving. Someone who was literally breaking himself in half trying to exist. 15 years of seeing truth she'd rather ignore. But when she thought of that 17-year-old girl waking up tomorrow cancer-free, confused but alive, Luna knew she'd make the same choice again, even if it destroyed her, even if Azriel was right, and compassion became the weapon that cut her apart from the inside. The shadows followed them out, whispering her name. 2 weeks passed like a fever dream. Luna learned to live, split between 2 worlds. Her day shifts at the hospital where she changed IVs and monitored vitals, and her nights with Azriel, where she hunted debts through the city's supernatural underbelly. She learned that demons ran nightclubs, where humans danced unaware, that angels disguised as priests heard confessions and marked souls for judgment, that the world she'd always known was just a thin veneer over something ancient and hungry. And she learned about Azriel, the way he flinched when celestial symbols appeared, how his red eye dominated when violence was necessary, cold and efficient, how his gold eye surfaced during rare moments of gentleness, like when he'd healed Marcus's daughter and stayed an extra hour to make sure the girl's heartbeat stabilized. He was 2 people trapped in one body, at war constantly, and Luna felt that war through their bond like a second heartbeat in her chest. She was restocking her bathroom cabinet when she felt him arrive. The temperature in her apartment dropped, and the mark on her arm pulsed warm in response. Luna looked up at the mirror and saw him standing in her doorway, reflected in the glass. He looked exhausted, both eyes dimmer than usual, silver veins prominent under pale skin, while dark purple ones spread from his right side. "You look like hell," Luna said, turning to face him. "Accurate assessment." Azrael's voice came out rougher than normal, the layers misaligned as if angel and demon couldn't quite sync up. "We need to talk." Something in his tone made Luna's stomach drop. She'd heard him angry, cold, even occasionally gentle, but this was different. This was grief, and dread, and something that felt horribly like guilt. What happened? Azrael moved into her small living room, and Luna noticed he was favoring his left side. When he sat on her couch, she saw the tear in his shirt, the wound beneath still bleeding silver red. "I need to tell you something. About your sister. About Sophia." The world tilted. Sideways. Luna gripped the bathroom door frame, suddenly unable to breathe. "What about Sophia?" 2 years ago, I was working for a celestial faction, hunting down descendants of judge bloodlines, your bloodline. His gold eye met hers, and the pain in it was devastating. They wanted your family eliminated, every last trace of the judge lineage erased from Earth. I was given a list of names. Your mother, you, and Sophia. "No." The word came out strangled. "No, you didn't. I didn't kill her." Directly. Azrael's hands clenched into fists, veins glowing brighter with agitation. "But I was there. That night. The truck that hit you wasn't an accident, Luna. The driver was a lower demon I'd contracted to force the collision. The timing, the rain, the fact that you'd worked a double shift and were exhausted. All of it was orchestrated." Luna's legs gave out. She slid down the door frame, hitting the floor hard, but physical pain was nothing compared to what was tearing through her chest. "You killed my sister. You murdered Sophia. The plan was to kill all 3 of you. Make it look like a tragic accident. But something went wrong." He leaned forward, elbows on knees, and Luna saw him trembling. Actually trembling. "When I felt the impact through my observation point, when I sensed Sophia dying and you screaming for help, the angel part of me revolted. I'd killed before. Hundreds of times. Thousands. But I'd never heard someone beg like that. Never felt grief, that pure bleeding. Into the world. Stop talking." Luna's voice broke. "Stop fucking talking. I need you to understand. I called off the hit, broke contract with the celestial faction that night, and went into hiding. They've been hunting me ever since. And when I found you 3 weeks ago, dying mother and all, I thought it was chance. Coincidence. But then I saw your face clearly for the first time. And I recognized you from that night. From the accident. And I realized the universe was giving me a chance at something I'd never had before." "What? Redemption?" Luna laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. "You think saving my mother makes up for killing Sophia? You think 15 years of my service balances that equation?" "No." Azrael looked at her fully, and both eyes were bright with unshed tears that glowed gold and red. "Nothing balances it. Nothing ever will. But I thought if I could protect you, keep you alive when they inevitably found you again, maybe I could prevent one more person from dying because of what I am. Because of the things I've done to survive being unwanted by both sides." Luna's mind spun. Every moment of the past 2 weeks replayed through a different lens. The way he'd positioned himself between her and danger. How he'd taken hits meant for her. The gentle way he'd explained her gift, as if handling something precious and broken. She'd thought it was just part of the deal, but it wasn't. It was guilt. It was atonement. It was a Nephilim who'd spent 200 years being a weapon trying desperately to remember how to be something else. "Does my mother know?" Luna's voice came out flat. "Dead. That you're the reason her youngest daughter is dead?" "No. And I won't tell her unless you want me to." "What I want." Luna stood slowly, her entire body shaking with rage and grief and betrayal so complete it felt like drowning. What I want is to wake up and discover this is a nightmare. What I want is my sister back. What I want is to rip this mark off my arm and never see you again. But I can't have any of that, can I? Because I made a deal with my sister's murderer, and I'm bound to him for 15 years. Azrael stood too, and Luna saw the war raging visibly across his features now. The left side of his face glowed with golden light, expression agonized. The right side darkened with shadow, expression cold and defensive. I know what I am. I know what I've done. But Luna, you need to understand something. The Celestials are still looking for you. They know you're alive. They know you're active, using your gift. And now that you're marked by me, they know exactly where to find you. They're coming. Soon. And when they do, they won't just kill you. They'll make it slow. Public. An example to any other judge descendants who might be hiding. Then let them come. Luna's voice turned to ice. Because right now, I don't care if I die. At least then I'd be with Sophia. At least then I wouldn't have to look at your face and remember that. Every time I trusted you, every time I felt sympathy for your suffering, I was mourning with my sister's killer. The bond between them pulsed with agony, his pain and hers mixing until Luna couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. She felt his self-hatred like acid in her veins, felt the angel part of him screaming with remorse while the demon part whispered that survival had required Sophia's death and would require more death still. Felt him fracturing further, splitting apart under the weight of guilt he'd carried for 2 years. I can't undo it. Azrael's voice broke completely, both layers dissolving into something raw and barely human. God, Luna, if I could trade places with her, I would. If I could go back and refuse the contract, choose execution over following orders, I would. But I can't. All I can do is keep you alive. Keep your mother alive. Try to save the people you ask me to save even when it tears me apart. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's all I have. Luna wanted to hate him, wanted to feel nothing but rage and betrayal. But through the bond, she felt the truth of his words, tasted the sincerity of his anguish. He wasn't lying. He wasn't manipulating. He was genuinely destroyed by what he'd done, and the worst part was that Luna understood why he'd done it. Survival. Obedience. The desperate need to belong somewhere, even if that somewhere demanded monstrosity. She'd worked in hospitals long enough to know that hurt people hurt. People. That trauma creates cycles. That sometimes the victim and the perpetrator are the same person, just at different points in time. But Sophia was still dead. And Luna had spent 2 years drowning in guilt, believing she'd killed her sister through negligence, when the truth was so much worse. The accident had been designed, orchestrated, her exhaustion weaponized against her family, and the being responsible was standing in her living room, bleeding and broken and begging forgiveness he didn't deserve. Get out, Luna whispered. Luna, get out. She screamed it, and the mark on her arm flared with pain, rejecting her own command. The bond didn't allow separation, didn't allow her to banish him. She was tied to Azrael for 15 years, whether she wanted it or not, whether he was monster or martyr, or both. Azrael moved toward the door, then stopped, looking back. His face had settled into something horrible. Acceptance. The gold eye still glowed with pain, but the red one had gone flat. Empty. They're coming for you in 3 days, celestial hunters. A full squad of 6. They'll attack at dawn when my power is weakest. I'll fight them, but I can't guarantee I'll win. So you have 3 days to decide. Let me protect you and live with knowing what I am, or refuse my help and die with a clear conscience. Either way, I'll respect your choice. He dissolved into shadows, leaving Luna alone in her apartment with the mark burning on her arm and Sophia's ghost screaming in her mind. She collapsed onto the couch where he'd sat, buried her face in her hands, and finally let herself shatter completely. The sobs came from somewhere deep, a place that had been locked tight since the night Sophia died. She cried for her sister, for her mother who'd never know the truth, for the 2 years she'd spent believing she was a murderer when she'd actually been a victim. And she cried for Azrael, God help her, because she'd felt his genuine remorse through the bond, tasted his self-loathing, and understood that he'd been dying slowly for 2 years, just like she had. 3 days until the hunters came. 3 days to decide if living was worth forgiving the unforgivable. 3 days to choose between justice and survival. Luna looked at the mark on her arm, at the broken wings that bound her to her sister's killer, and wondered which choice Sophia would want her to make. Luna didn't sleep for 2 days. She went to work, smiled at patients, changed dressings, and administered medications like her world hadn't imploded. But inside, she was constantly calculating. 3 days, Azrael had said. Celestial hunters at dawn. 6 of them against 1 fragmented Nephilim who'd already been wounded before confessing to murder. She hadn't seen him since that night. The bond still pulsed between them, a constant awareness of his location somewhere across the city. But he kept his distance, respecting her space, or maybe just accepting that she'd choose death over his. Protection. Luna couldn't tell which possibility hurt more. On the 3rd night, she sat in her car outside her mother's rehabilitation center, watching through the window as her mom laughed with a physical therapist. Healthy. Alive. Cancer-free because Luna had made a deal with the being who'd orchestrated Sophia's death. The irony was so sharp it drew blood. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Luna stared at it for 3 rings before answering. They'll be at your apartment at 5:47. Tomorrow morning. Azrael's voice came through distorted, as if he was speaking from very far away. Sunrise is at 5:51. They'll use those 4 minutes before my power fully returns to strike. You should leave the city tonight. Drive south. I've arranged safe passage across the border. You're not going to be there. Luna said it as fact, not question. Silence. Then, if I'm there, they'll kill us both. If I'm not, they might show you mercy. You're marked by me, but you're also judge. Bloodline. Rare. Valuable. They might decide to imprison you instead of execute. It's not freedom, but it's survival. You're running away. I'm choosing the option that keeps you alive. His voice cracked on the last word, layers misaligning. I've taken enough from you, Luna. I won't take your life too. Luna closed her eyes, and through the bond, she felt him. Felt his exhaustion and resignation. Felt the way he'd already decided this was how it ended. Him disappearing. Her either dead or imprisoned, the debt between them severed by separation or death. He'd convinced himself this was mercy, atonement, the closest thing to redemption a creature like him could offer. Where are you right now? Luna asked quietly. Somewhere you won't find me. Azrael, where are you? The bond pulsed warmer, and Luna suddenly understood. She could find him. The mark on her arm was a compass pointing straight to his location, burning brighter the closer she got. Her gift, the cursed ability to see truth, would lead her right to wherever he was hiding. Don't, Azrael said, and he sounded terrified. Luna, please, let me do this one thing right. Let me save you by staying away. Luna hung up. She started the car and followed the pull in her arm, the way the mark heated and cooled to guide her through the city streets. North into the industrial district, past the warehouse where they'd found Marcus. Deeper into abandoned territory until she reached a church that looked like it had survived. A bombing. The building was gutted, roof partially collapsed. Stained glass windows shattered into kaleidoscope fragments on the floor. But it still held the shape of sacred space. Walls that had once housed prayers and hymns now sheltering only shadows. Luna pushed through the broken front door and immediately felt Azrael's presence like a wall of heat and cold. He sat in what used to be the front pew, head in his hands, surrounded by candles that burned with flames too bright to be natural. Half the candles glowed golden, The other half flickered red. The light painted his features in sharp contrast, making the war inside him visible. "You shouldn't be here," he said without looking up. "Neither should you." Luna walked down the center aisle, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. "This is a church. Doesn't it hurt? Being in a place that represents everything that rejected you?" "Yes." He finally raised his head, and Luna saw that he'd been crying. Gold and red tracks stained his face where tears had fallen. "But pain is familiar. Pain makes sense. It's kindness I don't know how to survive." Luna sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. The temperature differential was dizzying, her left side burning while her right froze. "Tell me about the night Sophia died. All of it. Not the edited version. The truth. Luna, you owe me that much. If I'm going to decide whether to let you fight for me tomorrow, I need to understand who you were that night." "What you were?" Azrael's hands clenched in his lap. The veins in his arms pulsed with competing light, silver and dark purple fighting for dominance. "I was 203 years old, and I'd never disobeyed an order. Angels don't tolerate defiance, and demons respect only strength. I survived by being useful, by following commands without question. When the celestial faction hired me to eliminate Judge bloodline descendants, I didn't ask why. Didn't care. They were names on a list, and I was good at making names disappear. But Sophia wasn't just a name." Luna's voice stayed steady, even though her heart was tearing itself apart. "No. She was a 23-year-old art student who'd just gotten accepted to a graduate program in Florence. I watched her for 2 weeks before the scheduled hit. Standard protocol. Learn routines, identify vulnerabilities, plan the cleanest execution." He paused, jaw working. "She painted murals in her free time, visited children's hospitals to teach. Art therapy. She had your mother's smile in your eyes, the ones that see too much. And every day I watched her, the angel part of me whispered that this was wrong, that she'd done nothing to deserve death except be born with the wrong bloodline." Luna felt tears sliding down her face but didn't wipe them away. "Why didn't you stop it?" "Because I was terrified." The admission came out raw. The demon part of me said that refusing orders meant execution, that my survival required her death, and I'd spent 2 centuries choosing survival over morality. Why would this time be different? But it was different. "Yes." Azrael turned to look at her fully, and his mismatched eyes held such anguish that Luna felt it through the bond like a knife in her chest. "When the truck hit your car, when I felt the impact and heard you screaming Sophia's name, something in me broke. The angel part surged forward with enough force to override everything else. I ran to the scene, invisible to human eyes, and I held Sophia while she died. She couldn't see me, but I think she felt me. Her last words were, 'Tell Luna it wasn't her fault.' And I've carried those words for 2 years, like broken glass in my throat." Luna's breath caught. She said that? She knew she was dying, knew the injuries were too severe, and her last thought was protecting you from guilt. Azrael's voice broke completely. "I took that message from a dying girl and then let you spend 2 years drowning in blame. Let you work yourself to exhaustion trying to atone for something that was never your fault. I could have told you the truth at any point, but I was a coward. I wanted you to trust me before you knew what I was. Wanted to earn some scrap of forgiveness before revealing I didn't deserve any." The candles around them flared brighter, responding to his emotional state. Half burned gold, the other half red, and Luna suddenly understood what they represented. Each candle was a soul. People he'd killed on one side, people he'd saved on the other. The golden flames outnumbered the red by at least 3-1. "You've saved more than you've killed," Luna said, looking at the candles. "Doesn't matter. Every red flame is someone I murdered. Every face I can't forget. Sophia's is the brightest because hers was the death that finally made me question what I was, what I'd become. and I hate that it took killing an innocent girl for me to develop a conscience. I hate that my redemption is built on her grave. Luna reached out slowly and took his hand. His skin was a contradiction, burning and freezing at the same time. But she held on anyway. Sophia wouldn't want you to spend eternity punishing yourself. She believed in second chances, believed people could change. How do you know? Because she believed in me. After I failed her. After I let her die. If she could forgive that, she'd forgive you too. Luna squeezed his hand tighter. The question is whether you can forgive yourself. I don't know how. Then let me show you. Luna turned to face him fully, and the mark on her arm blazed warm. Tomorrow morning, when those hunters come, you're going to fight with everything you have. You're going to protect me not because you owe me, but because that's who you choose to be now. Not the weapon following orders. Not the creature desperate to survive. The Nephilim who holds dying girls and carries their last messages. The one who breaks contracts to save children. The one who's trying, even though it's destroying him, to be something better than what both sides say he has to be. They'll kill me. 6 celestial hunters against 1 Nephilim? The math doesn't work. Then we change the math. Luna pulled out her phone and dialed Marcus Chen. You're not alone anymore, Azrael. You saved his daughter. You've saved dozens of people over the past 2 weeks. You think they'll just stand by while the being who gave them second chances gets executed? We build an army, not of soldiers, but of debts. Repaid willingly, people fighting because they choose to, not because they're forced. Azrael stared at her like she'd just performed a miracle. Both eyes were wide, glowing bright with emotion. Luna felt through the bond. Hope. Fragile and terrifying, but real. You're insane. Probably. Luna smiled through tears. But I'm also Judge Bloodline. And you know what judges do? We see truth and we pass judgment. So here's my judgment on you, Azrael. You're not irredeemable. You're not an abomination. You're a person who did terrible things for survival and is trying desperately to do better. And that's worth fighting for. You're worth fighting for. The bond between them pulsed so bright, Luna saw light spreading beneath both their skins, silver and gold mixing, creating something new. Something neither angel nor demon, but somehow both and neither. Azrael leaned forward slowly, telegraphing every movement, giving her time to pull away. Luna didn't pull away. His forehead touched hers, and the temperature differential disappeared. For just a moment, he felt human, whole. If we survive tomorrow, he whispered, I'm going to spend the next 15 years proving you right, proving I can be who you see when you look at me. And if we don't survive, then I'll die knowing someone saw me as more than the sum of my sins. That's more grace than I ever expected to receive. Luna closed her eyes and let herself feel the bond fully. His pain and hers. His hope and her determination. They were broken separately, but maybe together they could be something that worked. Not healed, but functional. Not perfect, but trying. Dawn would come in 7 hours, and with it, hunters who wanted them both dead. But for now, in a ruined church surrounded by candles representing death and salvation, Luna and Azrael sat together in the dark and chose to believe tomorrow was worth fighting for. Dawn broke over the city like a wound, crimson and gold bleeding across the horizon. Luna stood in her apartment with 17 people crowded into the small space, each one someone Azrael had saved over the past months. Marcus Chen and his daughter Emily. A woman named Sarah whose son Azrael had pulled from a demon contract. An elderly man named Thomas who'd been given 3 more years to see his grandchildren grow. They weren't fighters. They were teachers and accountants, and a 17-year-old girl who should have been worrying about college applications, not preparing to face celestial executioners. But they'd all come when Luna called. Every single one. Azrael stood by the window, tracking the sun's ascent with eyes that glowed brighter as dawn approached. He'd barely spoken since they'd left the church, using the hours before sunrise to prepare. Luna watched him now, seeing the way his body tensed with each passing minute, the way silver light began spreading across his left side, while his right darkened to shadow. The transition was physically painful, visible in the tightness around his mouth, the tremors in his hands. "They're here," he said quietly. "I can feel them. 6 celestial hunters, exactly as predicted. They're circling the building now, establishing a perimeter." "What do they look like?" Emily asked, her voice small. She stood close to her father, barely 17, but refusing to be sent away when Luna had offered. "Beautiful." Azrael's gold eye tracked something outside the window invisible to human sight. "Angels always are. They look like everything humanity ever dreamed heaven would be. That's what makes them so effective at killing. People see them and think salvation when they should be thinking execution." The temperature in the apartment plummeted. Frost spread across the windows in intricate patterns that looked almost like wings. Luna felt the mark on her arm pulse with warning, heat spreading up to her shoulder. Through the bond, she sensed Azrael's power rising to meet the threat, both halves of him, synchronizing for the first time since she'd known him. Angel and demon working together instead of fighting. It was terrifying and beautiful at once. The window exploded inward without warning. Glass shattered into thousands of fragments that hung suspended in midair, each piece reflecting golden light. Through the opening stepped a being that made Luna's eyes water to look at directly. The hunter appeared male, impossibly tall, with features too perfect to be human. His eyes burned pure, white, and wings of light spread from his shoulders, each feather sharp as a blade. Azrael, son of Serial the Fallen and Lilith the Corrupt. The hunter's voice resonated with harmonics that made Luna's bones ache. "You are charged with breach of contract, unauthorized mercy, and protection of condemned bloodlines. The sentence is immediate execution. Raphael." Azrael's voice came out layered with power now, both parts speaking in unison. "Still following orders without question? Still killing whoever they point you at and calling it justice? Justice is not mine to define. I serve the law. You serve fear." Azrael moved away from the window, positioning himself between the hunter and the humans. "You execute anything that makes heaven nervous. Nephilim who might be too powerful. Humans who see too much. Anyone who dares suggest that maybe, just maybe, the system is broken." 5 more hunters materialized through the walls, passing through solid matter like it was smoke. They formed a circle around Azrael, each one radiating light so intense Luna had to shield her eyes. She felt the humans behind her pressing closer, their fear palpable, but nobody ran. Nobody abandoned him. "You have 10 seconds to surrender," Raphael said. "Accept execution with dignity, and we'll spare the humans. Resist, and they die with you." Counter-proposal. Azrael's hands spread, and power erupted from him in waves, silver and crimson mixing into something that pulsed with its own heartbeat. "Leave now. Report that I'd already fled, and nobody has to die today. Because if you make me fight Raphael, I will paint these walls with angel blood. And that's not a threat. It's a promise from someone who spent 2 centuries learning to survive beings like you." The hunters attacked simultaneously. Luna saw it happen in fractured moments. Blades of pure light materialized in their hands, wings spread wide, celestial fire erupting from their palms. Azrael met them with darkness and light of his own, his body splitting the attacks instinctively. His left side blazed with silver radiance that matched their power. His right side generated shadows that swallowed their fire. The fight was brutal poetry. Azrael moved like water and lightning, impossibly fast, each motion precise. When a hunter's blade came for his throat, he caught it with his bare hand, his skin burning but holding. When celestial fire erupted toward Luna and the humans, he generated a shield of woven light and shadow that absorbed the impact. But there were 6 of them, and only 1 of him. Luna watched in horror as a blade found his shoulder, driving deep. Silver-red blood sprayed across her floor. Azrael's scream was layered, angel and demon crying out in unison, and Luna felt his pain through the bond like her own shoulder had been stabbed. "Stop!" She didn't think, just moved. Pushed past Marcus's grabbing hands and ran straight into the fight. Her judge bloodline surged, that cursed gift, activating at full power for the first time in her life. And suddenly she could see them, really see them. Not the beautiful facades, but the truth underneath. Raphael, who'd executed his own brother for falling in love with a human. The female hunter to his left who'd drowned an entire village because one child showed signs of supernatural sight. The youngest hunter who'd killed a Nephilim infant in its cradle. Every sin, every murder committed under the banner of divine law, visible to Luna. Like words written in blood across their skin. "You're not justice," Luna said, and her voice carried power she didn't know she possessed. "You're just executioners who enjoy your work. I see you. I see every soul you've killed without trial, without mercy, without even asking if they deserved death. And I judge you unworthy of the light you carry." The words hit the hunters like physical blows. They staggered, wings flickering, as Luna's judgment forced them to confront their own actions. It wasn't an attack. Not really. It was just truth. But truth had power, especially when spoken by bloodline designed to perceive and pronounce it. Azrael used the distraction. His right hand erupted with crimson fire that he drove into the nearest hunter's chest. The being screamed, a sound like shattering crystal, and dissolved into ash. The other hunters reeled, shocked that a Nephilim could kill one of them. "That's one," Azrael panted, blood streaming from his shoulder wound. 5 to go. "Who's next?" Raphael's face contorted with rage. "You taught her to weaponize her gift. You've corrupted Judge Bloodline into something profane. I didn't teach her anything." Azrael moved to stand beside Luna, his injured shoulder pressed against hers in solidarity. She chose to see truth. That's what judges do. They look at the world honestly and call out injustice wherever they find it, even when it's wearing a halo. The hunters closed ranks, preparing for another assault. But before they could strike, Marcus stepped forward. Then Sarah. Then Thomas. One by one, the humans moved to form a line between the hunters and Azrael. They had no weapons, no powers, nothing but bodies and determination. "You'll have to go through us," Marcus said steadily. "And last I checked, slaughtering defenseless humans in front of witnesses violates about 6 different celestial laws." Raphael's white eyes burned brighter. "You would die for an abomination." "He's not an abomination." Emily's voice shook but held firm. "He saved my life when he had no reason to. Gave me a future when cancer had taken it away. That's not a monster. That's someone worth protecting." Luna felt Azrael's shock through the bond, his disbelief that these people were risking execution for him. She squeezed his hand, her marked arm pressing against his wounded one, their blood mixing silver red and human red. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered. "You're not unwanted. We choose you. All of us." The bond between them exploded with light. Not silver or crimson, but something new. Something that happened when angel and demon and human met in the middle and refused to be separated. The mark on Luna's arm spread across her chest, glowing patterns of broken wings reforming, healing, becoming whole. And on Azrael's skin, matching marks appeared, Luna's judge bloodline bonding with his Nephilim essence to create something neither side had ever seen before. A mate bond, complete and irreversible. Raphael took a step back, genuine fear crossing his perfect features. Impossible. Nephilim can't bond. The duality prevents it. Couldn't bond. Azrael corrected, and his voice was stronger now, both parts speaking as one unified whole for the first time in 200 years. Past tense. Luna's judgment didn't just force you to see your sins, it forced me to see my worth. and apparently, that was enough to bridge the gap inside me. The other hunters were backing away now, wings flickering with uncertainty. They'd come prepared to execute one fragmented Nephilim, not face a fully bonded pair protected by human shields, whose deaths would require celestial tribunal explanation. "This isn't over," Raphael said. "The council will hear about this. About her. About all of you. Let them hear." Luna stepped forward, her hand still locked with Azrael's. "Let them send their tribunals and their judgments. Because I'm done hiding what I am. I'm Judge Bloodline, and I see the truth about celestial law. It's not about righteousness. It's about control. About eliminating anyone who threatens the hierarchy. Well, guess what? I'm threatening it now. Me and everyone in this room. And we're not going away." The hunters dissolved into light, retreating, but not defeated. Just regrouping, planning their next move. But for now, Luna and Azrael had won, had survived. As soon as they were gone, Azrael collapsed. Luna caught him, barely keeping them both upright. His shoulder wound was still bleeding, worse than before. The effort of fighting while maintaining the shield had torn something fundamental inside him. "Hospital," Luna ordered. "Now. Marcus, help me get him to my car." "No hospitals." Azrael's voice came out weak, both layers fading. "They'll ask questions. Can't explain the blood. Silver and red doesn't exist in human biology. Then I treat you here." Luna was already moving, her nurse training taking over. "Sarah, grab my medical bag from the bathroom. Emily, boil. Water. Thomas, I need clean towels." They worked together, this makeshift family bound by debt and choice and the Nephilim who'd saved them all. Luna stitched Azrael's shoulder with hands that didn't shake, even though inside she was screaming. The mate bond pulsed between them now, constant and overwhelming, letting her feel his pain and exhaustion, and underneath it all, wonder. Wonder that he'd survived. Wonder that people had fought for him. Wonder that Luna had chosen him even knowing what he was. "We're bonded now," Azrael said when she finished bandaging him. "Permanent. Death is the only thing that breaks it. You understand what that means? It means you're stuck with me for life." Luna pressed her forehead against his, the same position they'd held in the church. "However long that is. Could be very short if the council sends more hunters. Then we fight them together." The mate bond changed everything. Luna felt Azrael constantly now, a presence woven so deeply into her. Consciousness that she couldn't tell where her emotions ended and his began. When he was in pain, her shoulder ached in sympathy. When she felt fear, his protective instincts surged through the connection like fire. They were separate people, but they breathed in sync, their hearts beating the same rhythm. It was beautiful and terrifying and so overwhelming that Luna sometimes locked herself in the bathroom just to cry from the intensity of it. 3 weeks passed without another attack. The Celestial Council was deliberating, Azrael explained, deciding whether Luna's actions constituted rebellion worth escalating or an anomaly to observe. Either way, they were living on borrowed time. Every dawn brought the possibility of hunters materializing through the walls. Every night, Luna went to sleep, wondering if she'd wake up. She was restocking the medication room at the hospital when the bond suddenly screamed warning. Not the gentle pulse of Azrael's location, but a violent spike of terror that nearly brought Luna to her knees. She grabbed the counter, gasping, as his emotions flooded through her. Pain, rage, and underneath it all, desperate fear. Not for himself, for her. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Luna answered with shaking hands. "They have your mother." The voice was female, cold, with the same harmonic resonance as the hunters. "Come to St. Catherine's Cemetery, alone. You have 1 hour before we execute her for harboring condemned bloodline." The line went dead. Luna stood frozen, the phone still pressed against her ear, mind racing. They'd taken her mother. The woman who'd survived terminal cancer, who was supposed to have decades left, who'd lost one daughter and didn't deserve to lose another. They'd taken her as bait, and Luna was going to walk straight into the trap because the alternative was unthinkable. She felt Azrael through the bond, felt him fighting toward her location. He was at least 20 minutes away, slowed by injuries that still hadn't fully healed from the last fight. 20 minutes might as well be forever. Luna ran. St. Catherine's Cemetery sprawled across 10 acres of manicured lawns and marble tombstones. Luna's footsteps echoed on the cobblestone path as she followed the pull of wrongness, that same gift that let her see shadows and truth, now leading her toward concentrated celestial presence. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting everything in shades of amber and blood. She found them near the mausoleum. 6 hunters, different ones from before, surrounding her mother who knelt on the grass with her hands bound behind her back. Her mom looked confused, more than afraid, still not understanding what was happening, why these beautiful strangers had dragged her from rehabilitation and brought her to a cemetery. "Luna?" Her mother's voice cracked. "What's going on? Who are these people?" "Mom." Luna's voice broke on the word. She took a step forward and 3 hunters immediately drew blades of light. "Let her go. She doesn't know anything. She's not part of this. She gave birth to you." The female hunter who'd called Luna stepped forward. She had copper hair that moved like living flame and eyes the color of molten gold. That makes her complicit. Judge bloodline propagates through maternal line. She carried that abomination in her womb and brought it into the world. For that alone, she deserves death. She didn't know what I was. I didn't know what I was until a month ago. Ignorance isn't innocence. The hunter's expression remained neutral, beautiful and terrifying. Your existence violates natural law. Your bonding with the Nephilim Azrael violates celestial decree. The corruption must be purged, and it starts with the source. Your mother dies, then you. A clean ending to a contaminated line. Luna's mother looked between them, understanding slowly dawning on her face. "Luna, what is she talking about? What bloodline? What's happening to you?" "I'm sorry." "Mom." Tears streamed down Luna's face. "I'm so sorry. I should have told you. Should have explained. But I was trying to protect you. And I just made everything worse. Your daughter can see truth," the hunter said conversationally, as if discussing the weather and not execution. "Judge bloodline, created by angels millennia ago to perceive sin and pass judgment on souls. They were useful for a time, until they started judging us, seeing through our righteousness to the violence underneath. So we eliminated them. Your family survived longer than most, but bloodlines always resurface eventually. It's just a matter of time and patience. You killed Sophia." Luna's mother's voice came out hollow. "The accident. That wasn't random, was it? You murdered my baby." "Collateral necessity." The hunter shrugged. The Nephilim Azrael was contracted for that particular cleansing. He failed to complete the assignment, which is why you and your remaining daughter survived. A failure we're correcting. Now. Luna felt her mother's anguish through their human connection, the same way she felt Azrael's desperation through the mate bond. He was close now, maybe 5 minutes away, pushing his wounded body beyond its limits. But 5 minutes was too long. The hunters would kill her mother in seconds once they decided Luna had heard enough. "Take me instead," Luna said. "Let her go. She's not a threat to you. She's just a woman who survived cancer and wants to see her grandchildren someday. But I'm Judge bloodline, bonded to Nephilim, apparently dangerous enough to warrant 6 hunters. So take me, kill me, leave her out of this." "No." Her mother's voice came out strong despite the tears streaming down her face. "Luna, no. I already lost Sophia. I won't lose you too." "Mom." I said no. Her mother looked directly at the copper-haired hunter. "You want someone to kill? Kill me. But you leave my daughter alone. She spent 2 years drowning in guilt over Sophia's death, and I just found out. It wasn't even her fault. That you people orchestrated it, weaponized her exhaustion and grief. So if someone pays for Sophia, it should be me. I'm her mother. Protecting her is my job, not the other way around. The mate bond exploded with Azrael's arrival before Luna saw him. He materialized from shadows at the cemetery's edge, moving so fast he blurred. Silver and crimson light erupted from his hands as he slammed into the nearest hunter, driving the being into a tombstone hard enough to crack. Marble, you made a mistake. Azrael's voice resonated with power, both layers synchronized perfectly. You threatened my mate, took her mother, and now you're going to learn what happens when you push a Nephilim past every single restraint he's been clinging to. The fight was vicious and immediate. Azrael fought like something possessed, his duality fully weaponized. When hunters attacked with celestial fire, his angel side absorbed and redirected it. When they tried shadow bindings, his demon side consumed them. He moved between light and dark with fluid grace, using both halves in perfect synchronization. But 6 against 1 was still impossible odds, even bonded and synchronized. Luna watched in horror as a blade found his ribs, another his thigh. He kept fighting, kept moving, but she felt his pain through the bond, felt him weakening. Luna's judge gift surged without conscious thought. She looked at the hunters, really looked, and saw truth that made her stomach turn. The copper-haired one had executed 43 Nephilim children. The male to her left had drowned an entire family of sensitives, including a pregnant woman. Each hunter carried a history of violence committed in heaven's name, atrocities hidden behind righteous justification. "Stop," Luna said, and power laced her voice. "I judge you, all of you. You claim to serve justice, but you're just murderers with prettier weapons. You've killed innocents, executed children, destroyed families, and called it divine will. But I see you. I see every soul you've erased, every life you've stolen. And I judge you unworthy of the light you carry. I strip you of righteousness. I name you what you are, executioners who enjoy their work." The words hit like thunderclaps. The hunters screamed, wings flickering, as Luna's judgment forced them to see themselves honestly for the first time in their existence. It wasn't an attack that damaged bodies. It was something worse. Truth that damaged souls. Azrael used the opening. His hands erupted with combined angel-demon power, that impossible mix of light and shadow that shouldn't exist but did. He drove it into the nearest hunter's chest, and the being disintegrated. Then another. Then a third. Each death fueled his rage, made him faster, stronger. The copper-haired hunter staggered back, her wings in tatters from Luna's judgment. "You'll pay for this. The council will send armies. They'll burn this entire city to find you." "Let them come." Azrael stood over her, breathing hard, bleeding from a dozen wounds but still standing. "I've spent 200 years being hunted, being called abomination, being treated like a mistake both sides wanted to erase. I'm done running, done apologizing for existing. You want me dead? You'll have to work a lot harder than this." The remaining 3 hunters dissolved into light, retreating. Azrael collapsed immediately, the adrenaline that had kept him upright fading. Luna ran to him, her hands all ready, assessing injuries, cataloging damage. The wound in his ribs was deep, dangerously close to his heart. The thigh injury was bleeding too fast, silver red pooling on grass. "Mom, help me," Luna called. Her mother was still kneeling, staring at Azrael with wide eyes. "Mom, I need you. Please." Her mother snapped out of shock, moved to Luna's side. Together they worked to slow the bleeding, tearing strips from Luna's shirt to make bandages. Her mother's hands shook, but her nurse training from 40 years ago kicked in, competent despite the surreal circumstances. "This is Azrael?" her mother asked quietly, pressing fabric against his ribs. "The one who was supposed to kill Sophia?" "Yes." Luna couldn't lie. Not now. He's also the one who called off the hit, who's been protecting me for the past month, who just fought 6 celestial hunters to save you." Her mother was silent for a long moment, hands still working to keep Azrael alive. "He has your eyes," she said finally. "Not the D color, but the way they look, like they see too much and it hurts. We're bonded, permanently. I feel what he feels, and he feels what I feel." Luna met her mother's gaze. "I love him, Mom. I know that sounds impossible. I know he's killed people, done terrible things, but he's trying to be better, and I'm going to help him get there, even if it destroys me." Her mother looked down at Azrael, at his mismatched eyes that were starting to close, at the blood that was 2 colors mixing into something that shouldn't exist. "Sophia's last words," she said quietly. "Do you know what they were? Tell Luna it wasn't her fault." "How did you know that?" "He told me. He was there when she died. Invisible, but there." He held her. Luna's tears fell onto Azrael's chest, mixing with blood. "He carried those words for 2 years like penance. That's how I know he's not a monster. Monsters don't carry guilt. They don't spend years trying to atone." Her mother reached across Azrael's body and took Luna's hand. "Then we keep him alive. For Sophia, for you, for whatever this impossible thing between you is trying to become." Together, they worked to save the Nephilim who'd killed one daughter and loved the other. And as Luna felt Azrael's heartbeat steadying through the bond, felt him fighting to stay conscious, she made a silent promise. They'd survived this attack, but more would come. And when they did, Luna would be ready. She'd weaponize her gift fully, learn to judge with precision and power, because protecting Azrael meant protecting herself. And she'd already lost too much to let Heaven's executioners take anything else. Azrael took 3 days to heal enough to stand. 3 days where Luna barely left his side, feeling every spike of pain through the bond. Every moment his body fought between angel regeneration and demon corruption. Her apartment became a war room, filled with the people he'd saved planning their next move. Because everyone knew the Celestial Council wouldn't stop. They'd send more hunters, bigger forces, until either Azrael and Luna were dead, or Heaven itself decided to back down. On the 4th day, Luna woke to find Azrael standing by the window, watching dawn paint the sky in shades of rose and gold. His wounds had closed to silver-red scars that glowed faintly beneath his skin. He looked different now, more unified, as if the near-death experience had forced his angel and demon halves to finally cooperate for survival. "You should be resting," Luna said, moving to stand beside him. The mate bond hummed between them, content and warm, reassured by proximity. "I've been thinking." Azrael's voice came out quiet, both layers speaking in harmony. "About what happens next, about the impossible position I've put you in. You're 28 years old, Luna. You should be living a normal life, dating, building a career, maybe having kids someday. Instead, you're bonded to something Heaven wants dead, spending your nights fighting executioners and your days wondering if you'll survive to see tomorrow." Luna's chest tightened. She recognized this tone. This was goodbye forming in his throat. Don't what? Don't you dare try to noble sacrifice yourself out of this bond. We've been through too much. I've chosen you too many times for you to make this decision alone." Luna grabbed his hand, forcing him to look at her. "Whatever you're planning, we do it together. That's what bonded means." Azrael's gold eye softened with love so intense, Luna felt it burn through the connection. His red eye held resolve. "The Celestial Council wants me dead because I'm proof that Nephilim can bond, can become more than fractured abominations. They want you dead because Judge Bloodline threatens their authority. As long as we're together, we're targets. But if I separate us, break the bond somehow, you can't break a mate bond. Death is the only thing that severs it." "Exactly." His hand tightened on hers. If I die, you're free. The mark fades, the connection ends, and you're just a human woman with some celestial ancestry. Not worth a full-scale hunt. You could disappear, change your name, live the life you were supposed to have before I destroyed everything. Luna's heart stopped. She felt the sincerity of his words through the bond, felt how much he genuinely believed this was mercy. This was love, sacrificing himself so she could be free. You're serious. You're actually planning to let them kill you. I'm planning to stop running and face judgment, confess to every crime I've committed over 2 centuries, accept execution, and free you in the process. His voice cracked. It's the only atonement that matters, Luna. The only way to make Sophia's death mean something. I stop being the monster who killed her and become the sacrifice that saves her sister. No. Luna's voice came out fierce. Absolutely not. You don't get to decide my life for me. You don't get to play martyr and call it love. Then what do you want me to do? Keep fighting forever? Watch you get hurt defending me? Wait until they kill your mother for real next time? Or Marcus, or Emily, or any of the people we've dragged into this war? His control fractured, emotions bleeding through the bond in waves. I'm tired, Luna. 200 years of being unwanted, of fighting to justify my existence, of pretending survival is the same as living. Maybe it's time to stop. Luna felt tears streaming down her face, but her voice stayed steady. You want to know what I want? I want you to fight. Not because you're trying to atone or prove you deserve to exist, but because you choose to live. Because despite everything, despite all the pain and guilt and impossibility of what we are, you still want tomorrow. Do you? Do you still want tomorrow? Azrael stared at her, both eyes bright with unshed tears. The bond pulsed between them, carrying his truth. Exhaustion and hope warring inside him. The desire to rest, forever fighting against the desperate wish to see what they could become together. I want tomorrow with you more than I've wanted anything in 2 centuries. But wanting isn't enough. The Celestial Council will never stop hunting us. Then we don't give them a choice. Luna pulled him closer, her forehead pressing against his. We go to them. Together. We demand tribunal instead of execution. I invoke my judge bloodline right to call testimony, and I make them answer for every crime they've committed in heaven's name. Force them to face their own sins the way you faced yours. And if they still vote for execution afterward, then at least we die knowing we told the truth. They'll kill us both immediately. Maybe. Or maybe they'll be too curious about a bonded Nephilim to destroy us without understanding how it happened. Maybe they'll want to study us, keep us alive to figure out if other Nephilim can bond too. Luna smiled through tears. You said yourself that you're proof of. Something new. Something neither side expected. Let's make them see that. Not as a threat, but as possibility. Azrael's arms came around her, pulling her tight against his chest, where she could feel his heart beating in sync with hers. You're either incredibly brave or completely insane. Both. Definitely both. Luna breathed in his scent, that mixture of ozone and spices that meant safety despite everything. But I'm also right. Running solves nothing. Dying solves nothing. We face them. Together, tell our truth, and force heaven to decide if love between broken things is worth destroying. And if they decide it is, then we die together. But Luna, I've already died once. The night I held Sophia and felt what I'd done, what I'd become. You brought me back, gave me reason to want tomorrow. So if heaven takes that away, at least I'll know what it felt like to be chosen. To be loved despite being an abomination. That's more than I ever expected to have. They stood wrapped. Together as dawn fully broke, light streaming through the window, painting them in gold and shadow. Through the bond, Luna felt Azrael's decision solidifying. He'd face tribunal. He'd tell the truth. He'd fight for their impossible tomorrow, Not because he believed they'd win, but because she'd asked him to try. 2 days later, they stood in a place between places, summoned by celestial messenger to appear before the council. It looked like a cathedral made of light, with no walls or ceiling, just a infinite space filled with beings that burned too bright to look at directly. 7 council members sat in judgment, ancient and terrible, each one radiating power that made Luna's bones ache. Her mother stood behind them, having insisted on being witness. Marcus and his daughter, Sarah and Thomas, all the humans Azrael had saved, standing together as testament to what he'd become despite what he'd been. Azrael, Nephilim, son of executed parents. The central council member's voice resonated like thunder. You stand accused of contract breach, unauthorized mercy, and corruption of judge bloodline through bonding. How do you answer? Guilty. Azrael's voice carried no fear. I broke contracts to save innocence. I showed mercy when law demanded execution. And I bonded with Luna Carvalho because she saw me as more than the sum of my sins. I confess everything freely and ask for nothing except that you hear our testimony before passing judgment. And what testimony could justify your existence? Another council member leaned forward, light blazing. You are abomination. Your very presence violates the natural order. Luna stepped forward, and her judge bloodline surged. Then I invoke ancestral right. Judge bloodline was created to perceive and pronounce truth, so let me pronounce it now. She looked at each council member in turn, her gift showing her their hidden histories. You've executed 62 Nephilim children under the age of 10. You've ordered the genocide of 14 bloodlines who threatened your authority. You've murdered, tortured, and destroyed in heaven's name for millennia, and you call it righteousness. But I see the truth beneath. I see that you fear what Azrael represents. Proof that broken things can heal, that abominations can choose love over violence, that your absolute authority isn't as absolute as you claim. The cathedral shook with the force of their rage, but Luna didn't stop. Azrael killed my sister, orchestrated her death, because you ordered it. For 2 years, I carried guilt that should have been yours. But you know what he did after? He confessed. He atoned. He spent 2 years trying to become better than what you made him. And when I offered forgiveness, when I chose to bond with him despite everything, he didn't just accept it. He fought to deserve it. That's not abomination. That's redemption. And if you execute us for it, you're not serving justice. You're just afraid of change. Silence fell. The council. Members looked at each other, light flickering with uncertainty. Finally, the central one spoke. You dare lecture us on justice, girl? You who've lived less than 30 years? I dare because I'm Judge Bloodline, and that's what we were made to do. Judge honestly, even when judgment implicates those in power. Luna took Azrael's hand, their marks glowing in synchronization. So here's my judgment. You can kill us. Prove that love between broken things is unforgivable. Or you can let us live. See what we become, and maybe learn that redemption is possible even for beings you've labeled irredeemable. Either way, our truth is spoken. Heaven's sins are visible, and everyone here heard it. The council deliberated in silence that stretched like eternity. Luna felt Azrael's fear through the bond, his certainty they'd chosen execution. But she also felt his peace, his acceptance. If they died now, they died standing together, having spoken truth to power. We grant provisional existence. The central council member finally said, You may live under observation. Any deviation from celestial law results in immediate execution. You will report monthly. You will not create more bonds, and you will serve as example, proof that even abominations can be controlled through love. Do you accept these terms? It wasn't freedom. It was a cage with prettier bars. But it was life. Tomorrow. The chance to see what they could build together. Azrael looked at Luna, gold and red eyes asking silent question. She squeezed his hand. Yes, we accept, they said in unison. They left the cathedral between places and returned to Luna's apartment where their makeshift family waited. Her mother hugged her so tight Luna couldn't breathe. Marcus clasped Azrael's shoulder with respect. Emily cried happy tears, and through it all, the mate bond pulsed warm and constant between them. That night, lying in bed with Azrael's arms around her, Luna looked at the mark on her arm. The broken wings had reformed completely. Silver and red intertwined, no longer shattered, but whole. We did it, she whispered. We actually survived. We survived, Azrael agreed. But Luna, this isn't happily ever after. It's just the beginning of learning how to exist in a world that doesn't want us. Monthly reports, constant observation. One mistake, and they end us. I know. Luna turned to face him, seeing both halves of him unified in the darkness. Angel and demon working together instead of fighting. But we face it together. You're not alone anymore. You're not unwanted. You're mine. And I'm yours. And somehow, impossibly, that's enough. Azrael kissed her forehead, and through the bond, Luna felt his truth. Gratitude and love and wonder that after 200 years of being called abomination, someone had chosen to call him beloved instead. Outside, dawn approached. Tomorrow was coming, with all its impossible challenges and uncertain dangers. But for now, in this moment, they were alive, and together, and free enough. And sometimes, Luna thought as sleep claimed her, free enough was miracle sufficient. Luna chose forgiveness when revenge would have been justified. She looked at the being who destroyed her sister, and saw not just a monster, but a broken soul trying desperately to become something better. And that choice, that impossible decision to love what she should have hated, saved them both. But here's the question that matters. What would you have done? If the person who took everything from you offered their broken heart as penance, could you accept it? Could you look past the unforgivable and see the human struggling underneath? Because Luna's story isn't really about angels and demons. It's about the war inside all of us, between justice and mercy, between holding on to pain and choosing to heal. She learned that sometimes the bravest thing we can do isn't destroying our enemies, but offering them a chance at redemption, even when they don't deserve it, even when it costs us everything. Azrael spent 200 years believing he was an abomination, unwanted by heaven and hell alike. And then one woman saw him differently, not as what he'd done, but as what he was trying to become. That changed everything. It gave him reason to fight, to hope, to believe that broken things could be made whole again. So ask yourself, who in your life needs that chance? Who have you written off as irredeemable when maybe, just maybe, they're waiting for someone brave enough to see them honestly and choose love anyway? Luna and Azrael's tomorrow isn't guaranteed. They live under constant threat, watched by forces that want them destroyed. But they face it together, and that makes all the difference. Because sometimes survival isn't about being strong enough to stand alone. It's about finding someone worth standing beside, even when the whole world says you shouldn't. If this story moved you, if it made you question what forgiveness really means, and whether redemption is possible for anyone willing to fight for it, then share it. Let someone else feel what you just felt. Hit that like button if you believe broken people deserve second chances. Follow for more stories that don't just entertain, but challenge you to see the world and yourself a little differently. And remember, we're all a little bit Luna, carrying guilt that isn't ours. And we're all a little bit Azrael, desperate to be seen as more than our worst mistakes. The question is whether we're brave enough to choose love when hate would be so much easier. That's the choice that changes everything.